On a Saturday night of this past July, I arrived home sometime around 1 a.m. from a night out of watching UFC on pay-per-view at a sports bar with my friends. I was in a genial mood, since it was an astonishing night of fights, and because one of my favorite UFC fighters, Conor McGregor, had won his fight. As I made my way up the steps that lead to the side door of my house, I kept replaying his victory in my head. Being the safe, sheltered person that I am, when I arrive home late at night, I always have my house key ready to be put into my door as I approach it, but because I was so focused on thinking about the fight, I was not as aware and mindful of my surroundings as I usually am. As I got to the top of the steps, I heard what sounded like rustling coming from my backyard, which is about 30 feet away from my side door. I leaned over the banister and began scanning my backyard, hoping the noise I heard was just the raccoons that live in one of the humongous trees in the yard. My heart started to beat faster, and I began experiencing that sinking feeling in my chest. As I'm surveying my backyard, I notice an unusual mass next to one of my trees. As I looked closer, I made out what looked like a person's head, which I was only able to see because it was slightly illuminated by my neighbor's outdoor light, peering out from the side of the tree. I looked even closer, and as I did, the person moved his or her head back behind the tree. My eyes widened, and I could feel adrenaline starting to pump through my veins. At that point, I was terrified, but I decided that I was not going to run inside my house. Instead, I crouched down, carefully made my way down the steps and headed towards the backyard. Making sure not to make any noise, and with my heart pounding, I crept up on the tree that the person was behind. When I was about 10 feet away from it, I saw the person, who I now could see was a skinny white guy, poke his head and shoulders out from behind the tree. I shrieked, froze in fear and, with a shaky voice, muttered, "What the fuck are you doing?" We stared at each other for a brief moment, and then he quickly turned, began to run towards my back fence, jumped over it and faded into the darkness. Freaked out and shaking, I ran back to the side door, unlocked it, hurried inside and dialed 911. I told the operator what had occurred, what the man looked like and what direction he had headed in. My parents, now awake and horrified at what happened, the police arrived at my house and took a report. Unfortunately, they never managed to find the guy. What bothers me is that I will never know why he was in my backyard, or what he was intending to do. Since that summer night, when coming home late, I always hastily make my way to my door. I still look at that tree thinking that I am going to see his head peer out. I will never forget his face and the way that he stared at me. Please, subscribe.